Before we get started, I wanted to do a little memory lane with you because I started my career on Wall Street in 1993. I graduated with a mechanical engineering degree. I think you were civil engineering. And it was the guys at Bankers Trust that recruited me. So I was at Bankers Trust when you were there from 1993 to 1995. I was on the 33rd floor on the fixed income derivatives desk. And Dan, it was a pivotal moment in my life. I learned so much on that trading floor. It was madness. I see you cracking a smile there. There were things said on that floor that are so politically incorrect today. It was so alpha, but there was so much learning at the same time. I remember I was interviewed by Ari Bergman. I went to work for Bill Hirschberg. There were a bunch of 20-something-year-old guys that had come back from Tokyo that were running these big books, and they taught me so much. They also verbally abused me and whipped me into shape. But I'm wondering what you remember from your days at Bankers Trust and being on those trading floors. I can't imagine these days how you do that via Zoom. But what do you remember from those days, and do you think those were great places to learn?
Oh, I do. Trading floors were so fun. 300-400 people, all just kind of bashing about with a ton of money and risk on the line. It was really fun. Everything being done by a robot now is a little less interesting. And I think, for young guys like you and me, it was a great time to learn because you had all these, seasoned professionals that were screaming about prices, across entire trading floors. And yes, probably some off-color remarks here and there. So it, made it spicy and fun. But the environment, particularly Bankers Trust, was so fun because it was a very dynamic place. The two guys you mentioned were great. And then the CEO was, Gene Shanks was allowing lots of very interesting things to happen. So you could create new markets. And, at the time you were there, we were all creating the derivatives market. And so it's a completely new asset class. It's changed the world. It's a very important thing. And that kind of, you roll the movie forward, 20 years, and blockchain is a new asset class. So there's a lot of analogs we can talk about later. But the trading floor environment was so fun. Flying around the world, going to Kuala Lumpur and all these places looking for interesting trades. That was a great time.
Yeah, I try to describe the culture of Bankers Trust, and it was almost, it didn't have a history, steeped in tradition. It was kind of like, we got this balance sheet. We got a bunch of smart people. We got great models. And if you can create something that'll make a lot of money and work, then we're going to give you as much rope as you can. That's kind of the feeling I had when I got there. Am I about right?
No, you're right. Because I actually started out as a CMO trader and asset-backed trader at Goldman. And, obviously Goldman does have a steep tradition, and everyone kind of did their, one little thing. And I was actually the first asset-backed securities trader there. Credit cards, auto loans, that was a new thing. And I was just the most junior guy on the desk. I kind of did my little thing. It was fun. I sat next to Steve Mnuchin and, some other treasury secretaries were my bosses. And so, it was a fun environment, but literally I did the same thing every day. And I didn't really learn that much because I just kind of tried to be good at trading a few asset backs, but I didn't really progress my career much. And when I switched to Bankers Trust, it was like a Wild West. Anybody could start a whole mortgage derivatives unit. I hadn't even heard of derivatives basically before I got there. And a lot of creative people, so it was a really dynamic, fun time to learn.
Yeah, I was
22. And you
twenty-two.
mentioned Tokyo. I did spend a year and a half, 91, 92 in Tokyo. That was a formative time because Japan was just entering what we now know as the normal new environment. But at the time it seemed, shocking to have rates below 6%. Japanese overnight rates were 6% when I was in Japan. And they were just getting their heads around what they thought at the time was, quote, a Japanese recession, so sub 3% growth. And having seen the devastation in the Nikkei collapse, with overnight rates at 6% and the economy in a free fall, I was like, no, I think this is like a real recession. And that was 30 years ago. And the world now has all those things they invented: ZIRP, zero interest rate policy, quantitative easing, all the things that were invented in the early 90s in Japan have, now are the normal for everywhere on it.